So I want to welcome you back to this second night of Beyond the Closet Door with your favorite later in life lesbians, Barb and Anne-Marie. So as I said, I'm going to go through this since all of you have been here the night before. I'm going to go through this really quickly right now. This is an educational program that is the best of my work for the last 6 years. As I have said before, I believe there is the power of the universe and there is a reason why you all are here tonight. And as I said last night, Barb and I have been through this. We've been exactly where you all are now. I came out in 2016 and Barb came out in 2017. And since then, I've helped thousands of people coming out later in life. Barb joined our team in 2021, and I not only found somebody who's amazing at content creation and all the other stuff, I found somebody who has become a very dear friend and also my work wife, and also someone who can really coach people quite well. And so that was a really good find when we met in 2021. So I do a lot of work with our community, and these are some of the reviews I have had. You can go on my website if you want to read more of those. Oh, I should have taken that one out, and I did not. Here's some pictures of my favorite people that I have seen over the years. The lady in the corner is Olivia Hill. She is the first openly trans person elected to office in Tennessee. She came out about the same time. We were in a group together, and that's how we met. She came out as a trans woman when she was 52 years old. She's very public about her former life. So she was in the Navy. She had a beard down to her belly button and looked like the most manliest man you have ever seen in your life. And so, and she talks about it all the time. So I'm not dead naming her or anything like that. She talks about that part of her life all the time. She's super cool. If you want to hear her story, she is in the first season of my podcast. I love this picture in the middle. That's me. That's actually my eldest daughter. That was the day I was ordained. And I keep that picture around because I always think about people when they're coming out later, coming out. And, they get a half embrace, when you come out and somebody is like, oh, that's so nice. How's your husband and your kids? Or, they don't sort of understand what it's like to be a full embrace. And having a full embrace when you come out is when somebody is genuinely excited and genuinely happy for you. And so that was right after I was ordained when I gave my daughter that hug. So professionally, I'm a graduate of Yale Divinity School. I'm a graduate of the Women's Leadership Institute from Hartford. It's not called Hartford Seminary anymore. It's called the Hartford International Center for Peace or something. I'm a chaplain, which was a very profound experience for me. I did both an internship and a residency at Yale hospitals, and then became a bereavement counselor as well. Back in the day, in the 1990s, I worked for Girl Scouts, and so I did adult development and training expert for them. And I got a diversity training certificate back in the 1990s from Girl Scouts, and they were far ahead of the time because they were already accepting LGBTQ people and talking about it in that diversity training. And then I've done the rest of the stuff that I've done over the years to help our community and work with the queer community as well. And this is the lovely Barb Rolinson. Go for it, Barb.
This is me. Yeah. So, as Anne-Marie said, we managed to find each other back in 2021, and had just for about a year, maybe 2 years, have been working for myself as a content strategist and marketer. And I gained all that content strategy and marketing skills from career marketing my own work, and also working for municipal and county tourism. I started a really large food festival in Midland,
No, Barb, you
Ontario.
got to tell them what the food festival is.
Oh, okay. So it's coming up pretty soon, and I think we're going into year 13 or 14 now. It's called Ontario's Best Butter Tart Festival. If you're Canadian, you know. Butter tarts are a Canadian delicacy, a dessert that's quite magically delicious. And after a lot of hard work and visualization and a lot of help from a lot of great volunteers, we managed to grow it to what probably is the largest food theme festival in Canada. And a lot of that was done on a shoestring budget and a lot of grit. So I had to learn a lot of different skills when I was developing that work, and I ended up parlaying it and offering those skills to other clients. I've most of my clients require me to do like but probably about 90% writing, but also graphic design, podcast editing, um, content editing, video editing, that kind of thing. And I've written about everything from bagels to office buildings.
Nail salons.
So when I found Anne Marie, I was just so excited because this was work that was aligned with my personal experience as a late in life lesbian. And I saw it as an opportunity to be able to serve the community. And in fact, Anne Marie is, have been the person to really inspire me to take that desire to serve the community even further. And last year was about this time last year, right, Anne Marie? I was
Yeah.
applying to graduate school and I got in. So at age 51, I started my master's, and in about a year and a half, hopefully, I will be a fully fledged psychotherapist. So with a lot more hard work and ingenuity, and also taking all those other skills that I've cultivated in my work life and
Mhm.
applying it to this. I'm also a secular humanist and have been on the board of directors with the Ontario Humanist Society since about 2018, and I'm a licensed humanist officiant. So that adds a layer of, philosophical meaning and underpinning to the work I do and how I live. I'm also a published author, and just really, I think my favorite part of my work life is the work that I do with Anne Marie. It's the most meaningful to me.
Thank you, Barb. Okay, so one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight is a catalyst. So what is a catalyst? I love this video, but it's a little slow moving, so we're going to move on from it. And hold on one second. There we go. So, in science terms, a catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction. And then in human terms, a catalyst is an event or a person that precedes a great change. So, in the later in life community, we often have both. So, it is a catalyst. A catalyst is something that causes us to rapidly realize that we are not straight. So, I would like to give some examples. So, a catalytic event is some sort of life altering, life shaking event. Like, you may have been diagnosed with a disease, some very significant in your life may have passed away. You may be divorcing, you may be changing careers and changing jobs, and then all of a sudden you start to realize you're not as straight as you were. And but also in the community, when people are referring to catalysts, they are often talking about a catalyst relationship, which describes falling in love and having a relationship with another woman. So I'm going to let Barb take it from here.
Sure. So catalyst relationships, boy, they really can be quite intense. They come with some incredibly high highs and also some pretty low lows. And when we experience the highs, they really are unlike any other type of relationship that you've experienced before. And there's a really compelling reason for this. And that's because women tend to be really great at fostering loving, nurturing bonds. And we do all of those things naturally that to create those bonds. So these would be things like maintaining eye contact. We're good at speaking in soft voices, being vulnerable with each other, great communication, good at using physical touch for comfort and pleasure. And when we do that, it can create a really deep emotional and physical and even spiritual connection.
Hey, Barb, I've got a question.
Sure.
Do catalyst relationships, do people actually have to actually have a physical relationship to be considered a catalyst?
Absolutely not. In fact, this could be somebody who's just a friend. Sometimes a catalyst can be somebody that we don't even know personally, but that
Mhm.
we have
Like a
a,
movie star or something like that?
it
Yeah,
can
like
be.
Kate Blanchett, and
Absolutely.
everybody like is in our generations in love with Kate Blanchett. And
Absolutely. Yep. And that can be as much a catalyst as any of the other things that you've described. But when it comes to a catalyst, obviously in a relationship, it takes two people to be in relationship. So when we have a situation with a catalyst relationship, it's when, we have the opportunity to create those like deep and meaningful connections, whether they're physical or not, that can precipitate these thoughts and feelings that we haven't experienced before.
so if somebody's having though an actual physical relationship, there's some things that happen, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. When we're having a catalyst relationship and it is romantic and physical and intimate, it tends to come with a lot of deep and meaningful connection. Women, we're so good at fostering these kinds of connections, right? We're great at the physical touch, the eye contact, the clean voices, all of those wonderful things that women are good at to foster the production of like oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine and all of those fantastic bonding chemicals and feel good chemicals. We're so good at it. And when you get two women doing it, it's, obviously twice as intense and twice as bonding.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So, so what happens when somebody falls in love with somebody that is their catalyst?
Well, it can be such an all-consuming relationship. And just like anybody who falls in love for the first time, you think that it's like the most incredible and wonderful and all-consuming thing, magical thing that has ever happened to you. And that relationship can really become like center of gravity, like the center of the universe. And all other things just kind of orbit around that. And even sometimes things that are important that maybe should get more attention than your catalyst relationship. So things like other family and friend relationships, your work. It might feel like just everything revolves around this relationship because it is so intense. And you know, oftentimes, I won't say every time, but oftentimes this strong, intense chemical connection happens before both parties are ready to consider or have considered whether they actually are really a good fit for each other.
Mhm, mhm,
So that means that there can be a lot of turbulence that follows.
mhm,
And just like anybody who's going through anything that is stressful in life, whether it's a job loss or the loss of a parent or anything that's stressful, it can have an impact on your primary relationship. But when it is one person who is having a sexual reawakening or to their authentic orientation and possibly even a coming out, it can create such intense turbulence in your other personal relationships, especially in things like your marriage, your relationship to your immediate family, and it causes a huge amount of stress. Well, what happens to any relationship when there's a huge amount of stress involved?
they
Oftentimes,
implode.
yeah, they implode, it becomes weakened. You don't know how, sometimes you lean back into old patterns of communication that are maladaptive. And and unfortunately, that's at that time when a lot of catalyst relationships will unfortunately end. And when they do end,
It can be
well,
tough.
yeah, it's pretty painful.
Mhm.
Some people, as you know, in our program have described this as like one of the most difficult times that of their lives when their catalyst relationship ends. So, you
Well, you
know,
were discussing also too, like all the feel good hormones of dopamine and serotonin and everything that happens when two women are together. And then people often describe when they break up with somebody, it's like going into withdrawal. But the reality is you are going into withdrawal because, the feel good hormones are all of a sudden not there anymore. And so if you've had a very intense physical attraction and love with somebody, and then it's all of a sudden gone, like before you're ready for it to be gone, right? So I
mm,
mean, there are people that are ready for their catalyst relationship to end, but it's really, really hard because you are like pumping all these wonderful feelings into your system and then it's over with.
right.
And and people don't realize that, right? They
Mhm,
think there's something wrong with them
mhm,
because they're feeling these feelings. And because we have been in the straight world for so long and have been partnered with men, and when we break up with men, we don't have those same feelings because we may not be straight. And so, a lot of times it's the first time people have ever felt this kind of feeling before.
mhm, mhm. And when it ends, just like the way you describe it as being like an actual withdrawal, like a drug withdrawal, that's 100% spot on. And just like when we have any other kind of big life event that is traumatic, that can really thrust us into the arena of grief. And so you're going through physical withdrawal, you're in heavy grief, and one of the most challenging things about this is because after having lived a straight life, um, there might not be a lot of people in your immediate sphere who normally support you, who really understand what's going on. So
Mhm,
really what you're experiencing is disenfranchised grief. And
mhm.
not only are you suffering, but there's really nobody around you to help, to understand, to be able to listen, to understand, and to help guide you through.
Well,
And so,
especially if the relationship was hidden or secret, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
that is disenfranchised grief because you can't talk to anybody about it. And disenfranchised grief happens to other people about other things, but it is a true phenomenon of grief literature. So when you cannot grieve openly something that is deeply, deeply hard for you, it is very difficult. So that is another reason why the end of a catalyst relationship or a first lesbian relationship can be so challenging.
100%. And when we have nowhere to turn, we're suffering. What is an automatic thing that we are probably inclined to do? That would be lean into our old trauma responses. And usually these are things that are not, these are behaviors that are not healthy for us. So that might be isolating from our family and friends, sleeping too much, which perpetuates the cycle of depression. Um, it could be just not talking to other people. It could be letting your personal hygiene go, maybe letting things go at work. And by the way, your brain's probably not working too well at that time either. So you might find yourself feeling really forgetful, and just kind of spaced out a little bit. So this is a time when you are trying to recover from one of these, the end of one of these relationships, to be absolutely kind and gentle with yourself. Self-care, hugely important, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. It's hugely important. And, even though it is a traumatic time and you've now been thrust into this arena of like, okay, I
Who am
clearly,
I?
right?
Who am I? That's
Who
really,
am I?
yeah.
What has just happened to me? I'm trying to process what's just happened to me. And now simultaneously, I have to figure out who I am.
Mhm,
And it's a time when you can gradually reinvent who you are.
mhm,
And as you reconstruct your life, you can do that in reference to your desires, your needs, your wants without the reference of another partner. So
Mhm.
it's a time of healing, and it's also a time of experimentation. If you've in your whole life felt very disconnected and not had your needs met, now's the time to go figure out how you can get those needs met. But the number one thing we have to do at this stage, find our people.
Find our community. And
Yes.
that is the most important thing. If you are struggling, if you're just coming out and you don't have a catalyst, if you've had a catalyst and you're broken up, if you're still with your catalyst and deeply in love, the number one thing you need to do for yourself is to find community of other people who get what it's like to be LGBTQIA plus in whatever country you live in. So we talk a lot about end of first lesbian relationships, and you can find a lot of resources on our website. We have a guide about when a first lesbian relationship ends. We have another one about free guide overcoming your first relationship. I have lots of resources and blog pieces on my website for you to peruse and see which ones are good for you. You really like Miriam's story and Barb's story on coming out and beyond. They both explore catalyst relationships, their own personal catalyst relationships, and how they learn to recover. Although we talk about catalyst relationships a lot, we also really do talk a lot about dating. And so Barb is really our dating person for Lotus Group Coaching. And Barb, how do you know when you're ready to date?
That is a great question, and it is one we hear from people in our program all the time. There is always so many questions about dating because a lot of the folks that we work with haven't dated in a really, 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 really long time.
Or they only dated their husband. I mean, they've like their like dating experience is very, very small.
So usually there's a lot of trepidation around this. It's like, okay, how do I even do this? And one of the big questions is, am I ready?
Right.
And let me just assure you, okay, first of all, we are none of us perfect. Okay? There is nobody who is in our age group who hits the dating scene who is doesn't have some battle scars. Okay? You know what I'm saying?
Or doesn't have some baggage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Look, we are none of us perfect. We all come with our scorecards that have, that tally up our hurts and our entrenched maladaptive patterns of behaviors, our inhibitions, and many of us have also had significant long-standing relationships that have ended. So one of the things you want to consider before you step out into the world of dating is, have you taken some time to heal yourself from the end of your last relationship? Do you have self-compassion for what you've experienced? And have you forgiven yourself for, because a lot of times this experience carries a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. So if we can let's do the work beforehand. And again, I'm not saying you have to be a fully fledged and healed person.
Well, you know what Tanda says. Tanda's my wife. She always says, I always find it when it's interesting when people say they want to work on themselves. But she said, I'm going to swear here, your shit doesn't show up until you're in relationship with this person.
Absolutely. Tonda, right again, because I'm telling you, yeah, you can be perfectly fine on your own for years and years and years, living life with reference to no one else but yourself. But as soon as you get into relationship, that's where stuff starts to get activated. So being a self-aware person, you don't have to be fully healed, but you do have to be self-aware in order to date. And so what does that mean? That means doing some work on yourself. And also understanding too that you're going into this, if you're choosing to go into dating, that you're not looking for anyone to fulfill you and to make you a whole person, because that's not possible. And the person who you should be in a primary, long-lasting relationship with is yourself.
Mhm.
We can
Mhm.
never divorce ourselves. We're in it for for a lifetime, right? So we
And
have
so,
to get
oh, I'm
sorry,
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Barb.
I was just going to say we have to get really good at cultivating our own happiness and fulfilling our own needs before we get into relationship with someone else. We're not looking for someone to make us happy. We're looking for someone to share in our happiness, right?
And so many times we have people that come into not so much our program, but on the Facebook pages we run, and they're like, "I have to find my person. I have to find my person," and that is inevitably we find that seems to fail for a lot of people
Mhm.
because coming out later in life is not about immediately partnering with somebody else. Although sometimes that does happen, and sometimes it happens successfully. It is about finding yourself. It's not about finding a person. It's about finding who you are, and as a human being, what do you need and what do you want?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, having said all that, yay, we're in a great relationship with ourselves. Woohoo! And now I'm really interested in wanting to go and find someone to share my happiness with. So, we've compiled a list of questions here to ask yourself before you jump into the dating pool, uh, and consider your answers to these. Okay, so let's review them. Am I recovered from the grief over the end of my last relationship? Now, acknowledging too that grief is a journey and sometimes it goes forwards and sometimes it goes backwards. But have we recovered enough to the point where we are looking forward to the future? Do I feel good about myself? So that encompasses your whole self. Do I have time to devote to dating? We tend to be a pretty smart and hardworking group, and making space for dating it takes time. Do you know what you're looking for in relationship? And this is something that I work on with our clients as a dating coach, is to help people get really clear about what they're looking for in relationship. Are you open to trying new things and having new experiences? Part of dating is actually getting out there. And what I've joked about this before, Anne Marie, she's not going to show up at your door with a pizza.
No, it's like I have a very good friend who you've met, are my friend P, and she, and we keep saying to her, "Honey, a lesbian's not going to fly through the ceiling and land in your lap. That's
Exactly.
not going to happen."
Exactly. So you may have gotten used to being a homebody, but I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to put your good shoes on and go out sometimes. Are
Yeah.
you open to constructive criticism about yourself and your dating profile? And I say constructive criticism, not anything hurtful, but hey, you know what? You might wish to consider tweaking this. Do you believe you'd be a good partner? Have your past relationships made you wiser and stronger? Do you trust yourself to pick someone who's a good match for you? Or have you learned to trust your own intuition? Will you take it personally if someone ghosts you? And ghosting is never about you, by the way. I just want to tell you that ghosting happens mostly because people are too
Are
nice.
immature.
They're just too nice to say. They don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
Do I trust that people are basically good? You can't get into the whole dating scene being jaded about humanity. And can I confidently and easily say no to people, even if they are nice? Lots of times you're going to meet people who seem great, but they're not a great match for you. So part of dating is having to turn people down. So if you answer your answers indicate that you're ready for dating, great. And if they don't worry about it, because it's not a race, it's a
Hmm.
journey, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And y- you know once you take the time to fall in love with yourself and to cultivate your best life, I believe like attracts like.
Hmm.
And once you have cultivated a life for yourself that is wonderful, you're going to radiate happiness, and that's going to attract the right person to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Barb.